Not sure if anyone had agenda items for today or if we wanted to start going through our backlog of issues and PRs here. I know Mario and I were going to start creating some work items as well for connection tracking and state machine. So does anyone have anything? Oops.
We have some PRs.
Okay. Who was that talking? I'm trying to monitor two screens. Yeah, hey Mukesh. Do you want to present or do you want me to present?
Yeah, I can present.
You can? Okay. I will let you have it.
Do you see my screen?
Not yet. It could be latency.
Request.
No, not yet. Not yet, Mukesh.
So it says request control or something when I try to.
Control. Okay. That's
control
fine.
wasn't.
I'm not seeing a request on my side. Would you like for me to share instead?
Let me just try one more time.
Okay. Yeah, feel free.
So I'm clicking request control now.
I think no, I think you should just click that white box with the up arrow that says share.
Yeah, when I do that, it says request control, and it says you didn't get control. Your request to control wasn't accepted.
I wonder if that's different or outside of Teams. I'm not sure.
Okay, so yeah, you could go ahead and share that. Yeah, I don't know what this is.
All right. And it's PR
187.
Issue or PR?
PR.
PR. And what number did you say?
So I have two of them, 187 and.
Got it. I mean, you see okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this changes to, so this is one of the issues, the issue 147. This is to handle that. So basically, we wanted to handle drops consistently by adding the, so we wanted to have the functionality of drop on table miss. So any P4 table miss in the pipeline, we need to drop the packet. So to do that, we need to add an action, default action in the P4 table to drop the packet if there is a table miss. But when we do that, it ended up adding a SI action automatically. So now what we're doing is we're marking it with add default and only standard P4 tag. And then we are parsing the tag in the SI API gen tool and not creating an action for that. So that's this change. So there are no major SI API changes with this. So it just ended up in removing one such action that was created, even though the action said default drop. I mean, it was a default action, but we still ended up generating a SI API for that. So now with this change, that SI attribute would be gone.
Okay, and then Chris reviewed here.
Yeah, so now that we are actually dropping packets in the pipeline, the previous echo test that we had wouldn't work. So I've changed it to kind of like a negative test to check for check that the packet actually gets dropped because it's an invalid packet, and that goes through. And the PY test using Snappy, that needs to be changed to whichever way we want to test it. But essentially, this change is to just make sure that we can add the default drop tag Maybe I don't know if you want to go into the files, see what the changes.
Marian or Chris, you were marked as reviewers. Did you want to go into it?
No, actually, I've been following this, and I guess I forgot to resolve the conversation. Excuse me. So I'm gonna write okay on these. The agreement is to defer closed and loop on these tests until some subsequent PRs where we can do meaningful loopback tests. In other words, just backing up. So far, we've had some echo tests where we send UDP packets through the behavior model and they come back. And it was really just relying on incorrect pipeline behavior to get packets back. It really shouldn't have passed the test in the first place, but it was a useful way to get all the moving parts working and verified, packet generation, etc. So what Mukesh is doing here is taking the first step towards correcting all these lingering problems by, first of all, telling it shouldn't pass packets and fixing this drop problem. And then later there'll be changes that he'll submit where we'll properly send packets through the pipeline and restore the positive tests. Would you agree with that, Mukesh?
Yeah, thanks.
So we've been kind of going back and forth on this. So I'm okay with this PR.
How about
So
you,
I
Marian?
have a quick question
Sure.
on this one.
Yeah.
If I may. So when I don't see anything, I don't know whether we are sharing anything or not, but I heard you mentioning that it's drop on table miss, right?
Mhm.
So we know that we were talking about adding some capability, right? That we have add on table miss capability that we wanted to add so that we can we can have that functionality be supported as part of the PNA and eventually be supported through our behavior model. But are we saying that this is just a stopgap solution right now that we drop
Yeah.
packet and then eventually once we have that add on table miss we will have the right functionality afterwards?
So the add-on miss is a specific requirement for the connection tracking. So that's only for the connection tracking table is where we need the capability to add entries when there is a miss. But whereas by default for other tables like your VIP table or the mapping table, CA to PA mapping table, routing table, all of those tables, if there is a packet miss, if the packet fails to match any entry there, it has to be dropped. So that's a default functionality already available in P4. The add-on miss is an additional enhancement that we need to change the behavior model. Whereas the table miss drop is something that is already available. So we just
Okay.
need to mark a tag saying default drop.
Okay, no,
So
good. Thank you.
yeah,
I think this explains. Yeah, this explains it. Thank you so much, Mukesh. But another thing about this tag part, this tag is essentially it's like an indication to our auto
API
generation code, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
all.
this is like how we are communicating that, hey, don't generate the extra API. Just go
Exactly.
ahead and Okay. All right. No, thank you.
That's all.
Yeah, that answers it.
Yeah, and the other change request in the issue was that all drops should happen at the end of the pipeline. So basically, yeah, that's what this basically marks the drop bit, and then at the end of the pipeline, it goes and drops it.
That's so we can make sure if we need any counters along the way, we don't abort the processing, right? Among other things, yeah.
So do we need Marian to approve it too, or are we good?
Yeah. Marian, if you can take a look at this.
Yeah, I'll review it. Fine. I know about this one.
Great.
And then I have one more. To 193.
Outbound pipeline packet test.
So this one, I've tried to actually have an end-to-end packet test for the outbound direction. So the change basically populated all the tables. So the only ones that are not used currently are the ACL and the connection tracking ones. Except that we have the VNI, the VNET, the ENI table, the routing, and the CA to PA mapping. All of those tables are populated, and I was able to get a packet through. There were some issues. So those issues are mentioned in the, I've raised an issue for that to list all the issues that I've faced. And I had to fix all of them. Some of them are like the prefix for the, when we fill the P4 prefix, we need to fill the mask properly and things like that. So there were a few issues that I had to face, and all of them are fixed here. So with this, we are able to, there's a base test now that we can have packet through.
And Chris, it looks like you did your review.
Yeah, but we'll still need someone else to review, for example, the SCI header, the SCI generation, and the P4 pipeline itself. I helped out on the PTF infrastructure.
Yeah, so this is the PR where we restore the packet test fully.
Yeah, so this is an important one, right? It's like this would be the first time where we actually are testing the pipeline where it's quasi-functional. Is that correct, Mukesh?
Yeah. So this is the first time we are actually getting the packet through after all the changes that we have made. And yeah, so this will ensure that from now onwards, whatever change we make, we don't break the pipeline.
Yeah, to me, this is kind of a milestone, big one, because once we get this technique and all these pieces proven, we can build real test cases, and we can start building much more elaborate test cases that test, all the extent of the processing pipeline, et cetera, and, do larger scale testing with flows, et cetera. And I look forward to getting ACL rules in sometime soon too, so we can start testing those. But this is a real good effort.
So, Mukesh, you are adding a new test in the Chris's test case. Is that correct? Or where is this? Is this Psi PTF test case, or where is this test case being added? And definitely would like to review it.
Yeah, so this is a SCI PTF test case. Can you go down to the bottom, last
The very
the
bottom.
last file? Yeah.
Just to correct, just to be more precise, Reshma, this is not being committed to the Psi repo under PTF. It's in the dash repo under Psi thrift tests. There's nothing stopping it eventually
So the last,
from being merged. Yeah.
Here.
so the last load diff, can you click on that? The final one. The load diff at the bottom.
I don't, but this one here.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically, it's whatever Chris had added, I've changed that to now a more extensive test. The simple echo packet that Chris had. So now there are multiple tests here. They test for various invalid packet drops, plus the final test is a valid packet that has to go through.
Okay. And you have added lookups in different types of tables here?
Yeah, so we have populated all the tables, so the packet has to hit every table to get forwarded.
Okay.
There are more cases we can add, obviously, like various the VNET direct rule and all that. So this is just one case for a proper forwarding packet.
I see at line 131, you commented out some tests until that 187 is merged, and then you'll re-enable those. Right?
Yeah. So this initially was one PR, and then it was getting too big, so I broke it up into two. So now I have to wait for the first PR to go in, and then I'll enable this one.
You might want to mark this
test
as draft. It's just a good.
Huh?
You can mark this PR as draft because you wouldn't want it to be merged if someone decided to be, fast track this, right? Review it and accept it. It would be failing. well, it would be deficient, let's say. So maybe mark it as draft, waiting for PR 187.
Yeah, I guess we are actually usually going in sequence, but yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we are
You
usually
want-
merging.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's all I have.
Do you want Reshma to be added as a reviewer as well?
Yeah, sure.
Reshma, do you want to be added? Reshma?
Yes, please. Yeah, definitely want to review this, and wanted to say that we have also added, in the process to add test cases that for the VNET use case, and then we can work together as well. We definitely would like to review this and sorry, and see what we can add and what you have added. We can combine it into one test case, because I think Vladimir Mitnick is also upstreaming one of the PRs for the test case that we showed last time. So just want to make sure. Vladimir Mitnick, would you like to say where the PR, has it been raised already in Dash or not yet?
No, not yet, right.
Okay,
I'm going
okay.
to do this in a couple of days. Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we should, sort of combine forces and work together on this one. That would be great, and we'll definitely review this. And Mukesh, Chris also mentioned offline that you're trying to use SciPTF. So please reach out to us as well. Myself and Vladimir Mitnick here. We can help you with any roadblocks that you may be facing. And the main reason that we have all this auto-generated framework and the test case, everything in the Dash, is so that we can all use it. And it will be really great for us all to use it, for you to use it, and then we'll upstream it to Sci. So, yeah.
Yeah, and as far as adding, let's say, new VNet test cases, Reshma, if you guys want to add more tests to the one in addition to what Mukesh did, it's very easy to drop them into this directory. And it's very straightforward.
Sure.
The script will just automatically run them all. So either in the existing directory, existing file, or even new directories, new files, they all get run. So it's very low overhead to add test cases now. And Vladimir, we had some offline talk, yourself, myself, and Mukesh about the PTF version, and the one that's in the Sci repo doesn't support VXLAN. But Mukesh and I worked together, and experimentally he found that PTF 0.9.3 does support SCAPI. Does support VXLAN. So this part of this change is to use that. And I created a new Docker image that's already uploaded, and he's referencing that Docker image to build the SciThrift client. So all the pieces are in place now. We don't have to fool around with that anymore. And
Right. Definitely VXLAN test cases, we have already sort of modified it to Dash, so it should be working. Yeah, we can sync up in more detail how to use the Dash auto-generated framework, for PTF in the CI/CD.
well, we're doing that, right? But if we want to use the PTF test cases under Sci, then we'll have to talk about how to weave that in. But right now, this is using the full auto-generated framework. And just more community update. I had found things in the Sci repo that needed some tweaking in order to support Dash because of the experimental headers. All of those have been upstreamed to Sci now, and now we're using the upstream Sci repo. So we're in good shape. Microsoft people have been real good about reviewing PRs and accepting them. Richard Yu and others. So things are moving forward in a good way.
So, Mukesh, AMD team, any other PRs you had? Just the two?
Yeah, that's the two for now.
That's great, thanks. So, Prince or Marian, did you have anything this week that you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I have one pull request as well.
Do you want me to present or do you want to do it?
No, I'll do it myself.
Okie doke.
Can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mentioned it a week or two ago. There was an issue with the VNet routing specification on the inbound side. So yeah, let's start with the routing table itself. So again, we're talking about the inbound. Previously, it was only looking at the VNI. So as well as the outbound routing, inbound routing is also per ENI. So that's the first thing. And second thing is that we need the idea of routing table is to point us to a VNet. In the outbound direction, it is point us to a destination VNet. In the inbound direction is to figure out from which VNet the packet came from. So we need to look at the source VNet. And source VNet is not only we cannot assume that source VNet will be only identified by the VNI in the packet, because VNI values may overlap as well. So we need to look at two things. First one is VNI. Second one is prefix of the source public address from where the packet came from. So those two values can give us a VNet ID, which is relevant to our ENI universally across regions. So we won't be afraid of stepping on someone else's VNet. So that's the first change. And then it also results in a change in PA validation. So let me expand that. Inbound routing has two actions. VXLAN decap if we don't want to do PA validation. VXLAN decap with PA validation. And if we don't have a match, we drop a packet. So PA validation, before it was matching on ENI, that's wrong because that's on the in the scope of the VNet. So we removed ENI from here, we moved it to routing. And another thing that we were matching on VNI. So again, VNI may not be unique. So we're changing that to VNet ID, which is determined by inbound routing. So if the action is we want to do PA validation, so we will do the we will remember our source VNet ID over here. We will write it to metadata and use that metadata as a match on PA validation. So we will look at the VNet ID and the exact value of the PA. So this is the overall.
So Marian, which table has this mapping, PA to VNet ID?
Again, which mapping you're talking about?
I'm talking about basically how do you drive the VNet ID? Which table has that mapping?
Yeah, inbound routing. So it has action that points us to PA validation. And here you, based on the inbound routing, you get your source VNet ID. Here is the action used in inbound routing. It will set the VNet, the source VNet ID. And then PA validation will use it. So yeah, let me go to the apply.
So this will cover both the use cases, whether you basically have inter-VNet or intra-VNet, right?
Yeah. All right, so in the apply, we have the following. There is, in the inbound direction, we do inbound routing. And if it is PA validation, we action with PA validation, we apply that, and this will this table along with this action will set the VNet ID for PA validation.
So I think Marian, the PA validation should have the PAs taken from the CAPA mapping for the VNet, right? That is clear, right? Like
that's how that's how they will be programmed.
Yeah, so the application side will not provide the reverse mapping, right? So
yeah, we have explicit schema. I think there is a pull request by there is a pull request by Prince that adds
this is me, Marian. So I'm just making sure that the PA mapping table is not will not be explicitly provided.
Right, you're saying basically the org agent will not call the PA validation table creates, right? That is something you're expecting. From the mapping, we derive it and program the PA validation.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Org agent will program that. It's just that it will program that as part of CA to PA mapping.
Right. That's correct, but
so
org agent will
separate, not. So won't there be a separate SAI API for PA validation table?
Yeah, so I guess the clarification, Prince, is the org agent going to invoke the SAI APIs for PA validation table creates, or is that you're expecting that to be done somewhere else?
I'm not sure what is the PA validation table. Is that the PA mapping table? Then no.
So the PA validation is the association of the VNet and the source, right?
Correct.
That's shown here.
Yes.
As shown here, it is a SAI API that takes VNet ID and source IP, PA source IP.
Yes.
And says allow or deny, and that has to come from org agent.
That will come from org agent, but where you will go and validate should be from the VNet tables. VNet CAPA mapping table.
No, the CAPA mapping table is used in the outbound direction, right?
Yeah.
So this table is only for the inbound, and it's a separate SAI API. That's the way it's written here. That's how it will become.
It will be separate SAI API. But
so
how do you do the PA validation?
So in the inbound direction, it will hit that inbound routing rule.
Yes.
The inbound routing rule will say whether to do PA validation or not for a given VNI, and then based on that, it will look up the PA validation table, which is populated by the org agent separately from CAPA.
Right. Yeah, because there's a permit deny action associated with the PA validation table, right? So
Marian, will you be creating a test case for this as well? Now that we've got some infrastructure?
Fix the existing test case. It fails already.
Oh, okay.
There is no inbound test case now.
So what is okay, I'll take a look. I saw that some test cases failing after these changes. So when
it's not a test case that's failing, the code generator is failing.
Yep. Okay. Let's stay on the topic of So Prince, when we get this entry, right, we have our VNet.
Yes.
We have CA. We have PA.
Correct.
So first thing that org agent will program is the exact same thing in the SAI, which is the CA to PA mapping, which is VNet, CA, PA overlay MAC. But then together with that, it will call another SAI API and it will program VNet plus PA as a PA validation entry.
Oh, so that's what I was trying to clarify. Is that required, or can it be derived from here? by the implementation. Because
Well,
this is
yeah, but that's why I think we have orc agent to not do such implications. Those are two different logical entries. I know they are related, but I don't want to put too much implications into the SCI implementation. Too much things.
Yeah, that's the whole basis of STI. It doesn't know what's going on. It's very dumb on purpose.
yeah, but the
the information is here. We can derive it if needed.
That's one my point. Where we are providing the CAPA mapping, but the PA validation, of course, the key is different, but the data is already available.
Yeah, but what's the problem for Cajun to do two SCI calls?
I mean, we can do, but how do we? I delete the PA, right? Like we'll have to make sure that okay, all the CAs are removed.
Yeah. Ref counting.
So,
Something like that.
Hold on. What ref counting? It's 1-to-1. If you
no, right, like multiple CAs can map to one PA. So I cannot remove the PA just by when I get a map.
Yeah,
so it is doable. Why it's not that it is not doable, but my point.
But that's even more argument towards doing this in orc agent.
I agree, but I'm not sure like if the implementation is going to look into the CAPA table or it will have to do this logic. If there is extra logic required in the SCI, then yeah, of course, I think we can plan it from the orc agent. Yeah. Yeah.
But is your question, Prince, is your question that do we need a separate table for this kind of a mapping to store? That's where the problem is?
My question is like from that behavioral model, just clarifying the expectation, like where and who will provide that PA mapping, whether it is inherently or implicitly derived, or it has to be.
What I hear is
from
that it is implicitly derived from the CAPA mapping.
That's
right?
Not what I think. What I'm hearing.
Yeah, because I think it has to be explicitly programmed, called from the SCI API, from the orc agent, the way it is done today. But yeah, it does introduce some extra work to orc agent.
So
it's not fully clear what is the explicit work that is needed in the orc agent.
So Reshma, here the mapping table is keyed with CA and then attribute as PA, right? So when we say for a VNET 1 PA validation, meaning there should be a mapping table of CA-PA where that PA is part of, right? Like one of the mapping table should have that PA.
Yes.
So we are not looking for the incoming packets inner CA and then mapping it against the PA, right? So
in the inbound direction, this is for the inbound direction, right?
Right. So inbound direction, you extract the PA and then check against the derived VNet, whether that PA is part of any CAPA mapping. So the question here is whether that needs to be explicitly programmed or can it be implicitly derived?
Okay, based on the VNet programming.
Based on the VNet CAPA mapping programming, yeah.
Yeah, so Prince, as you mentioned, someone needs to keep reference count. I'd rather it being done once in orc agent instead of every implementation doing that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, I think we have that SCI API, right, for PA validate. Is that?
Oh, it will change because we need to add VNet ID key here, which was
And
not
the source.
fix
Okay.
the routing. Yeah, so I'll generate a new pull request for this. And by the way, to everyone, I believe it will be the last one, so we can call the VNet to VNet API complete.
Hey, Marian, I also heard that this PA validation is, could be optional or could be conditional. Do we handle that case also?
Yeah, because there are two different actions. So, Prince, is your inbound routing pull request merged?
Not yet. I think let me merge that.
Hold on, I want to take to show that in the schema first. So there is this dash route rule table for the inbound. So it has what we were talking about, the VNI prefix, priority, and PA validation, if we want to do PA validation or not, which is, as was mentioned, is optional. So we have two different actions in the inbound routing, without PA validation and with PA validation, that we can choose from.
But Marian, just if you go back to that in the PA validation, even though it's optional, if it is not provided, then it is PA validation, like set to true.
Yeah, then Orcagent will pick this action, and that's
yes, that's right. So
so yeah, so there is option to choose.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so that's all. Please review number is 1.
194, right?
Yeah. Posting it in.
Who wants to review? I can add you. I'm on the screen right now if anyone wants to be added.
Please add me as well, please.
Hey, Reshma, you're now on there.
Thank you.
And I made a comment on the review to please add a test case. I think going forward, as soon as 187 and 191 are merged, we'll have the ability to write, VXLAN based test cases. And I think it would be a real good idea if we all just had a convention that when we create or fix or add a feature, we try to write even a minimal test case. First of all, to prove that it works, and then secondarily to regression testing, right? Catch changes that happen in the future, because there's a lot of churn going on. And I think it'd be good to have little mini tests for everything going forward. And then we can take those mini tests and build bigger tests on top of them. Other people can pick up that work. I'm sure we'll be pitching in on larger scale tests once we have like a working example of a simple test. Keysight can help create, let's say, larger scale test based on some of the work you saw in yesterday's meeting, where we have config generators, etc.
Sounds good. Sorry if I'm on mute. I've got landscapers outside, so don't want to drown you guys out. Any other PRs for today?
I had a question about connection tracking is also to be added for VNet to VNet, right?
So, oh, go ahead.
I would guess it should be.
Yeah, so whatever we have today in the pipeline has to work. So that is another thing we need to, that we have to enable the connection tracking, the pipeline, and so on. And what SI APIs do we need for that? We don't have SI APIs for connection tracking today.
You don't really need SI APIs to enable connection tracking because it's all in the data plane. However, there are some things that go unmentioned on HA meeting. For example, if we would want to program entries via control plane when there is a session created and there are already some connections learned. So then probably you'll need similar APIs like add entry. But just to have it working on a single device, I don't believe any API is needed necessarily.
We need the stateful behavior in the model is what we need, right?
I guess will there ever be a case where connection tracking is disabled?
No, it's not enable, disable, but just get the flows or anything like that. That kind of an API is required.
Oh,
Yeah,
you mean to basically, just read all the flows from the flow table?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure. I'm just.
And summary
putting it out
counselors
there.
too. I think even if we don't do that, if we don't have controller access to the flow tables directly, we probably at least want to think about summary counters, right? Number of active flows, etc.
The counters
Also-
have definitely been listed, right? But we still need the get set to be able to read the flows. Yeah,
why do you need to read the flows like in the regular operation?
in the regular operation, we may not need.
No. Hang on.
For...
In the flow simulation, would you not need it?
Exactly, I was going to say that. Yeah.
No, flow resimulation also happens in the data plane.
But Gerard was saying that we want to have visibility into the state of the flows in order to for testing reasons.
Yeah, again, so let's separate. That's what I'm talking about. Testing, visibility, debugging versus running stateful connections.
There was another discussion also in HA where basically we said for our syncing, the bulk sync for when a connection gets reestablished to the
And that's
to a standby.
Yeah, but that's for HA.
Right. But you don't need for HA, you do need to read all those flows, which are different colors, and then you need to do as part of perfect sync. You need to sync it to the standby. So this is all done at the SI level, and then you need to read them and then be able to package them and then send it to the standby. So for that reason, that's the requirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but can we? That's my point. Again, let's keep that separate from what I'm talking about right now. Is just running single device. Of course, we will need it for testing, for debugging, for HA, etc.
Okay, I also had a question about the way the connection tracking will be implemented. So the way we have it right now is there is a contract in and a contract out table, right? And they're looked up in reverse order based on the direction. In outbound direction, we have contract out looked up first and then contract in, versus in the inbound is the other way around. So this seems to be creating 4 tables in the pipeline with the default P4 compiler.
Mm-hmm.
There is an issue in compiling that code, so we'll have to figure out some way to do this. Is there any way to like
What do you mean
enhance
issue?
the behavior? Sorry?
What do you mean? Which exactly issue are you talking about?
So when I compile the code, so what I tried is I removed the hash of ifs that are there today, because the code itself is not compiled, right? Connection tracking code is not getting compiled today in P4 because it's under an hash of def.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I removed the hash of def and tried to compile it. And I removed, I just commented out all the PNA extensions and stuff like that. So it's just plain P4 code. And with this, it's actually because there are separate inbound and outbound direction lookups, it's actually creating 4 tables instead of two. So
Yeah.
what we want is just 2 tables, contract in and contract out. But it's actually creating 4 tables: outbound.contract in, outbound.contract out, and then inbound.contract in, inbound.contract out. So we need some way to kind of tell the compiler and the underlying model that it's the same table.
Yeah, as we do it for ACL, I believe, right? ACL is also the same table was applied.
So ACL, the solution that I was thinking of was that it's actually multiple tables in the pipeline, and with the control plane, when we push entries, we actually copy out entries to all the tables.
Yeah.
And there, because it's all identical, it works. So are we going to do the same thing here, which means the add on miss should actually add it to 2 different tables? How does it know which tables to add to and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's the thing that we need to fix in the behavioral model. Because if you look at the P4 spec or BMV2 spec, I don't remember exactly, it says that if you apply table more than once, there will be separate entities, and it's a responsibility of control plane to keep entries up to date in both of them, or in more than 2. So here, this is a similar issue, but with a self-learning table. But they cannot. We can no longer rely on the control plane because it's the entry is learned. So we'll need to fix BMV2 to actually, when it learns, it will learn for all instances. Yeah, that's expected change.
Okay, so as part of the changes that you and Roop are doing, this also will be covered.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry,
we can
but
go ahead.
Is this the right or is this the best direction to go, or should we rather try to write the code in a way that it can be compiled on a single table rather than having 2 tables? Because
If can please do. Yeah, I don't have any issue with that.
Yeah, for both directions, it should be just one table, right?
yeah, ideally,
Yeah,
yes.
the problem is, I think the problem now is every time you do an apply, it creates a new instance. So another thing I'm trying is, instead of invoking it separately from inbound and outbound, 2 different locations, 2 different controls in the pipeline. I was trying to do it from the same place, but with an if-else check, right? If direction is outbound, call contract out first, else call contract in first, and things like that. I'm still running into some compiler errors even with that.
That might be due to the fact that if you tell the compiler, I want to apply table A before table B in one case, and in the other case, table B before table A, the compiler will not going to be able to place it in stages because there's a conflict.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a problem there. Yeah.
Yeah. So either we leave it as it is now and then create copies in the data path, or we need to see how to solve this in the pipeline code.
Yeah, but if we create copies in the data path, it would mean that, as Marian was saying, that when you add an entry to a table, you actually have to add it also to another table.
Yeah.
Which is challenging. I mean, not in the software model, but in a real implementation, it would be challenging.
No, so this is not the real implementation. This is just the software.
Yeah, that does not imply that the real implementation needs to have multiple tables.
Yeah, sure. Yes, but I'm just thinking that at some point these things will have to be implemented. I know that this is just a model, but if we model it like this, a real implementation still needs to have 2 tables. But okay, it's something to think about.
Marian, can you update the group and just give us a snapshot of where we are getting the proper P4C and behavioral model, into Dash? Like, where are we on that journey?
Yeah, so P4C is mainly ready. I just need to now have the Docker to use a fork instead of official P4C. Behavioral model, it supports add-on mist, supports set expire time. What it doesn't support is what was mentioned today, is to add to multiple instances of the table.
It will now have the stateful support.
Yeah, actually, I added the issue today for the state to request that we support the stateful support to the stateful operation, which actually means having table entries that can be modified. So that's something that we will need to some point address. I don't think it was already in the plans of Marian because it's not in. It was not one of the open issues until today. Is that correct, Marian, or were you anyway planning to implement it?
No.
Yeah, so I added an issue for that, and then I added another issue for in fact keeping track of sequence number and acknowledgement numbers in connection tracking. And I think this should cover what we discussed last week in terms of connection tracking. I don't know if I forgot something, Marian or Mukesh or Christina, who were there at the meeting. Let me know if I forgot something.
So just to follow up on what Marian said, there's kind of two large, let's say, summary tasks in order to get the behavioral model doing what we really want. One is replace the P4C Docker image with the forked version, and the other is to replace the behavioral model Docker image with the customized or the modified version. Because right now we're using vanilla Docker images, slimmed down a little bit. And so that's kind of some infrastructure tasks. But ideally, we just drop them in and replace what's there with new containers in it. The whole workflow doesn't change.
So I heard something we were talking about. It said we don't need a SCI API for connection tracking, but we have a work item here that says we do. So, and we've had this one for a long time. So do we or don't we? Am I on mute?
Not for the main use case. We need it for HA, for debugging, stuff like that.
Oh, so this is for HA. So does it belong in behavioral model? Because this is the behavioral model project, not the HA project?
Because we generate APIs for this kind of stuff in the behavioral model.
So leave it here?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cross-linked issue in a way.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused. I'm sorry. Just gonna put HA. Okay. And then the second one was, we have here BMV2 for stateful traffic, and we were going to check back a while ago. So are we closer to this? Or do we need to check back on a different day? And Chris, you were asking, like, how close are we?
Yeah, Marian, I think, answered the first part of the question that P4C is getting close. It's just a matter of Dockerizing the fork. It's the BMV2 is the actual engine, so I'm not sure where we're at there.
Yeah, so I'll first do P4C, and after that I'll start integrating the BMV2 changes.
So maybe check back end of August or something.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Did someone say something?
Yeah, I was just, this is Mukesh. I was just saying that we can close the next item in that list, the one below routing VNet direct.
We can close this?
Yeah, that's completed in one of my earlier PRs. Right, Marian? There's nothing else to do there.
Yeah, we even have APIs merged, everything is done.
And it's Mukesh MV, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to close it or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So we're almost at time. We have 1 minute left. Is there anything left burning for this meeting in particular?
Hey,
One
just one
question.
heads up.
Yeah, Vijay.
Yeah. So just one heads up. So there might be some more metering changes coming to the behavioral model. So I think we are going to circle back with Prince in terms of the requirements and the AppDB changes. So yeah, we are working on that right now.
Metering, okay.
Metering, like a policing or metering or both?
No, it should be as a billing, right? Right?
Billing, yeah. Billing or metering, yeah.
Yeah, it's we are using metering word as a billing here, and then other places it's used as policing. So
I see.
yeah, it's billing. But that brings up a question, and Vijay, we actually looked at all the stats and counters in update in one of the HLD. But I think if there was an open item about metering and billing, that will be, so I'm not even sure that whether it has been, do we even have the list of all the billing counters or metering counters already communicated by Microsoft?
Yeah, I think we have some idea, and yeah, I think we need to circle back with Prince on that one, and yeah, hopefully we'll have more details soon.
Yeah, if we could basically have that be in the document, for the community to review to see what are the what are the counters are there, which essentially are used for billing purposes, that'll be great.
Yeah, this is kind of Prince, Christina, Michael. There's a new guy on the project as well from the SDN team. Kind of convergence thing where we know it needs to be done. We know we need to get on it. They need to document and finish it. It's definitely on our list. And I also have it on the list in the overall project. So yes, we definitely know we need to do that. And it's pretty apparent that, we have the counters item here and it's billing / metering here. We need to finish that. So thank you for the reminder.
Sorry for sounding like a broken record.
Not at all. Not at all. It's super important because we need to have that packet or attachment so we can tell, what we're counting for the customers to bill against. So anything else, guys? It's 11:01.
Oh, I just wanted to to ask about the metering also, but already has been asked. Yes. So, but by the way, so the metering is going to be configured by the underlay, or we are going to have some kind of overlay API for the configuring the metering?
This is a little out of my depth. I'm not a developer. Prince or Marian, would you know?
I think we will have to discuss in that little bit more detail, right? So
Okay.
yeah,
We will get back to you.
yeah.
I will definitely. Today I'm off today after today, but I'll go up and poke around tomorrow on campus and ask the question.
Oh, nice. Have a nice time off.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good time.
Well, thanks. I'll stop the recording and thank you guys for coming. And Mario, thank you for adding those issues. That's awesome. We can work
No
together
problem.
to add more, whatever you think about, whatever you think we might need for behavioral model. And thank you, Marian, for your time and everybody. You'll have a good day.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christina.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.